just a bloke in a bar.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith, and a big welcome to Best Sheds. Smithy, honestly, I think you're getting better and better at those reads. It's music to me ears. Music to me ears. How you been, buddy?
Thanks, Kempy. Going really good, mate. Obviously, very excited for Origin 3 tonight on the Gold Coast. But as you mentioned, mate, big welcome to the Best Sheds family. The McFadden boys down there, great supporters of rugby league, but great supporters of the Captain's Run more importantly. So welcome on board, guys.
Mate, they keep the lights on. The lights were flickering last week, and now they're on. They're ready to go, and I'm ready to go, Smithy. I'm pumped.
We couldn't see text messages coming through, but we're up and running again. We're up and running. Full bore.
Mate, Origin tonight. What's so good about this game? I actually think the drama around moving it to Queensland has reinvigorated the narrative, the yarn, the fact that they could make history and sweep Queensland in Queensland. Then you've got Queensland fighting for. It's not. I think it's actually. You know, let's say it stayed in Newcastle. That would have been great for the game. Great for the game.
Yep.
But I think it's added to the stakes for Queensland especially, and for New South Wales to make history. What do you think about the game being moved to Queensland on the Gold Coast?
Yeah, well, I think it's great for Queensland. I just hope the Maroons boys now back it up with a good performance and try and salvage something from this series. As we know, it's already done and dusted. The Blues have won it 2-0 already. But I think it's a great match, and the talk around the town all week has been about how Seabus Super Stadium's it's going to see the biggest crowd ever. I think the last time we seen a capacity crowd on the Gold Coast was way back in 2010.
Wow.
For a Titans Warriors game, I believe. So it's been a long time. So and being sort of very close to the border, Kempy. There's going to be a lot of New South Welshmen here to watch the Blues. No matter the result tonight, they're going to lift the shield. So they're going to have a lot of support here tonight. But come on, boys, Maroons.
Oh, mate,
something
come
for
on,
us,
boys. Give me something.
I reckon they got something special for us this week,
mate. I agree. I totally agree, and I think that put it this way: I think if we go into game one with this team. Although take nothing away from New South Wales, maybe they probably still would have won. Yep. But I think the games are much closer. Yes. And we're going to see that tonight.
Yeah, well, the matchup of the two teams are much more even now, and in particular with the halves pairing of the Blues being out, Cleary and Jerome Luai. But then also you can't forget about Saifiti either. He was enormous. In the first two games, enormous, just with his work rate and the impact that he had through the middle to lay that foundation for those two boys that we spoke about in the 7 and 6 jersey, as well as the outside men who have dominated the series for the Blues. But with those two boys out and Mitch Moses making his debut, Jack Whiten going in with the number 6 jersey is really this is the first real minutes that he'll see in this series. As well as the Hammer. Being given his debut for Queensland. Finally, we've got some, and I'm not knocking Kurt Capewell here at any point at all, but finally we've got some speed to burn out wide.
Absolutely. I mean, one of this is not Origin footy, but one of the knocks I have on the Eels is the fact that what separates them from a top tier team, the top tier, is the fact that they don't have that one player that has strike outside, and that's with Queensland. Hamiso brings that strike. The only question is, though, he's coming up against a Tom Trbojevic that is arguably playing one of the best series we've ever seen from an outside back.
Oh, absolutely, mate. I back you up your comments there, and he'll be if he plays well tonight, Tommy. He'll be very hard done by if he doesn't get man of the series. In my eyes, that's just in my opinion. But he's got a huge challenge in front of him, Hammer. But there's nothing for him to go out there and lose tonight. The series is finished. It's called a dead rubber, but certainly in the eyes of the Queenslanders, they won't be thinking that. This is another opportunity to win a game, and it's his debut, so he wants to go out there and impress. And don't worry too much about who's on the other side of the field. Just go out there and mate, do your very best and back yourself, particularly when you got the footy. I hope he scores a couple tonight. It'd be lovely
Oh, could you imagine the hammer flying down Gold Coast Stadium? Smithy's on the sideline
Oh.
commentating, the best commentator you've ever seen. The hammer goes over and Queensland go up, and then the Tommy head drops. No, now on to focusing on the New South Wales, because we have a lot of New South Welshmen listening here.
Yes.
What does Mitchell Moses need to do? Is it a matter of keeping it as simple as possible, or is it a matter of stamping authority onto the game?
Well, this is why I thought, right, I thought they were going to opt for Adam Reynolds for Game 3. Just because I just thought that, he'd been there before. They want to get to Game 3. Try and stick with that same game plan where, he's a very good ball player, a very strong kicking game. Just continue playing the game that they played in the first two matches, where they gain a bit of momentum through the middle and get the ball wide, get the ball to their edges and shift the ball around. Whereas, Mitch and particularly Jack White, and they're very different style of players where they actually enjoy running the ball, and that's probably their strength. So it's going to be quite interesting to see the style of footy that they play, and whether that 10-day preparation has been enough for them to sort of fit into that game plan that the Blues have taken. Because I don't know whether Freddie would have changed the game plan for the entire team because of the two changes in the 7 and 6 jersey. I really think they would have. I think he would have asked those two players to say, "Hey boys, this is what's worked for us in the series so far. We need you to adapt to the style that we're playing."
Absolutely. I think, my unsolicited advice to Mitchell Moses, it's probably wrong, but I would be saying to Mitchell, mate, just focus on a great kicking game. And then spin the ball to your outside men. Now, if we need to change it after halftime, we can change it after halftime, but let's just kick really well and get the ball to Trell and Tommy.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I think that's what the message would have been fairly early. And also, Origin being a different style of footy that Mitch has ever played before at Clubland, I think, Freddie would have had his mindset around his defensive game as well. Just to make sure, say, mate, you're going to have to get your body in front here. You're going to have to put your body on the line at times, play a physical style of game, and just start building his game around his defence.
Do you think that, now don't get me wrong, Finucane, incredible. Like I am such a fan of Dale Finucane, but he is not the same size body as a guy as Saifidi. And Saifidi topped the metres for forwards in both games. Do you think that may affect their ability to bend the line in that first 20 because Dale's not as big a body?
No, well, and that's right. And that's not questioning Dale's ability at all. It's, he's one of the hardest men that's ever played the game that I've played with or against.
Yes.
So, but he's just a different body. He's a different size body. He doesn't have the weight of a Saifiti. So it's going to be interesting to see how that changes the way New South Wales play too, and what effect it has on momentum that they can build through the middle. There's no doubt that he's going to provide a lot of positives for the Blues team, Dale Finucane. But it is a very, very different looking New South Wales side to what we've seen from the first two.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, with Queensland, we spoke about it for a bit over the past few weeks. Do you think that we will see a drastic game plan change in the sense that, yes, Cherry will kick, yes, Cherry will lead us around, but the focus is Munster?
I think we have to see a totally different game played from Queensland. This game, I just think they have to go out there and just unleash the shackles. Like we can't worry about playing safe and getting ourselves into the match, and because if we take that mindset into the game, hey boys, let's just try and wear them down and get ourselves into the game. Like it'll be 20-0. It'll be 20-0. Like you'll blink, it'll be 20-0 because we've seen the potency that the New South Wales team has, and if you give them too many opportunities and let them start building momentum and dominating field position and possession of the football, then we're all aware of their ability to score points. Where I see the Queensland game going for this one is they need to almost replicate what New South Wales have done to us. They need to throw the ball around. They need to go from edge to edge to edge. Don't get stuck in the one out hit ups and trying to wear the opposition down. Hey boys, start using your hands. Promote the football. Like we've got two of the classiest halves in the game in Cherry Evans and Munster.
Absolutely.
Like, use your ability, boys. Like, play a little bit of heads-up footy, kick early, mix it up a little bit, promote the football in offloads. Like Josh Papali'i and Christian Welsh, they're two of the best offloaders in the game. Well,
Yes.
use their ability. Like, start using your ability, boys, and ask some questions of New South Wales.
I think that it's a very dated game plan, the grindy game. When you look at Penrith and you look at the Storm, they shift. They shift to the three in defenders, which is the halves, very regularly, almost to a point where if you took that game plan and tried to do it maybe 10 years ago, you would get ground out. But the game has changed.
It has, and really, if you complete well and you put the opposition under a lot of defensive pressure, you get rewarded by the 6 again rule. And if we all know, when teams now are defending consecutive sets of 6, that it puts a whole heap of pressure on their defenders, particularly in the ruck, because they're bigger men and they tire quickly. And also, the guys out wide, being asked to make those one-on-one tackles over consecutive sets. And what that turns into is points on the scoreboard. So that's what Queensland need to do. They need to play an up-tempo style of game where, Munster and Cherry Evans, they're promoting the football across the advantage line, towing the forwards onto the ball, playing the ball quickly, going at them again. And you don't know. Like, if Queensland can score early points, and I said this in the first match, long time ago now, history shows Queensland got touched up. But anyway, if Queensland can score early points on New South Wales, it's a totally different game. Like, you got to remember, New South Wales have not played from behind at any stage during this series.
Absolutely. Now, don't forget to send us a text anytime, 0457 736 736. This is the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith for Best Sheds. Best Sheds are up to 40% cheaper. Back shortly on SEN. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith on SEN. Make sure to grab a case of Bloke in a Bar for the huge game tonight, the best beer in the history of mankind. But we have some text, Smithy. We've got some text. Hey, boys, love the show. Would love to hear Cam Smith's thoughts on your theory on the post-contact meters and missed tackles. Now, for the listeners that don't listen to Bloke in a Bar because you are a bad bloke and you don't like me,
yes,
the post-contact meters theory is this. I asked my employee to go and find me the least post-contact meters conceded. So I wanted to see if the top teams had the least post-contact meters conceded and if it bared out, because not many stats bear out the way you think. For example, if you thought completion rate would show you the best teams in the comp, it actually doesn't. The Bulldogs have the best completion rate, and yet they are obviously not the best team in the comp. So I got the numbers, and it bared out exactly true, where if you take post-contact meters and the least missed tackles, the top 4 is the top teams, which is Storm at 1, Penrith at 2, Manly and the Souths. Now, what do you think about the post-contact meters theory, and also is it applicable to Origin?
Well, Campy, I agree with you, because when you think about post-contact meters, it's really how your attitude towards defence, and if you don't allow the opposition down your end, particularly with the way the game's played now and the new rule changes, then you're a good chance of not letting them score points. It sounds very basic, but again, it's the sides that put a lot of effort into their defence. Now, some of these rule changes were said to be introduced to take away the wrestle and take out these low-scoring matches and all this sort of stuff. But those stats that you just mentioned, then it shows that if you put effort and you take a good attitude into your defence, then you're going to win more games than you lose. And so that's why I don't think it's had such a greater effect on the Storm in particular as much as many people thought, because they still put in the time and they pride themselves on being a strong defensive team. Now, those stats, as you said, they've conceded the least post-contact meters defensively, and they sit on top of the table now.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is it doesn't matter how much the game changes, it stays the same. And what I mean by that is defense wins premierships. It always has, it always will, because it's an attitude thing. It's a representation of how committed you are to each other. And just on an X's and O's kind of breakdown with the post-contact meters and why is it so important. If you win the first contact, then you're going to have more time to play the ball down. Therefore, you have a 4-second play the ball rather than a 2-second play the ball that a lot of teams are getting because they lose the first contact and they don't have the wrestle to slow everything down. And I think that's why we're seeing the best defensive sides explode and beat teams by so much, because it's so hard to get that momentum back.
Yeah, of course, mate. It's a combination of a lot of things, and there's been mention of rosters and the way clubs are managed, and the rules, and it's a combination of all of them. We mentioned last week on the show, there's no doubt the rules have really amplified the difference between the good teams and the teams that aren't playing so well right now. But I can't agree with you more, mate. Like, defence, as much as a lot of people dislike that part of the game, it's still half of the game. It's still 50% of the match. There's 50% of the game you're attacking, 50% of the game you got to tackle. And if you defend well throughout the season, you're going to put yourself in a really good position come finals. And defence, it wins the big games when it matters, mate.
Absolutely. It's really interesting to see how some stats you think would bear out don't, and some stats that you don't even really think about do. But anyway, on to the big news of the week. A couple things. Obviously, Jai Arrow making a huge mistake, really stupid mistake. Great bloke, stupid mistake.
Yes.
Being the captain of Queensland, former captain of Queensland, and a senior player, how does that hurt team morale, if at all, with your experience in camp? Yeah, well, it's
another thing that you have to think about, don't you? And like some people go, he left camp and he's gone home and they just get on with it. Well, it's not as simple. Like, here's a guy that's, he's been an important part of the Queensland team for a few series now. And they've started off the camp in preparation for this game with expecting Jai Arrow to be there. Now, a few days in, this incident happens. It creates a fair bit of drama around the Queensland team and the camp and what's going on up there. And, questions are asked of, their attitude towards the series and the character of the the culture and all this sort of stuff. Like, it's just unwanted focus on your footy side. What you should be doing in Origin is just worrying about your preparation, not all of these outside factors. So, from a league fan, after what we come from last week with the Dragons barbecuing, I could not believe that we had another a COVID protocol breach. Could not believe it. It's just and people say it's a silly mistake and all that. Yes, it is, but like, come on, boys, like, you know better than that. You know what the rules are. You can't bring outsiders into your bubble, and it's just very disappointing that we make the same mistakes over and over. And so onto that, like, I think Peter V'landys, the chairman of the commission, has come out today and said, with the relocation, another big news story, the relocation of pretty much the entire competition up into South-East Queensland. If there's any player or staff member involved in those NRL team bubbles to break protocol or step outside that bubble, you will be removed immediately.
Yep.
Immediately.
So.
And yeah, exactly, mate. Like, and it's fair enough because there's been a lot of work between the NRL, the commission, state governments to allow this to happen. There's a lot of people being moved in and around the borders and states and all this sort of stuff, when there's very few people afforded that ability to do that.
Yes.
And so, quite understandably, he's come out quite strongly today and said, look, if anyone's to break these protocols, then it's going to be a pretty easy decision. You'll be gone.
And it's looking like Victoria has 8 locally acquired cases, with Sydney extending the lockdown by 2 weeks.
Unbelievable.
It is amazing. Not amazing. It's amazing in a negative sense to think that we are still in this position where people are losing their livelihoods.
Yep.
People are unable to work. And as you said, when you see people break protocol it's not a innocent mistake. This is a choice made. If it was an innocent mistake, I think a lot of people could forgive it.
Yes.
But these are choices being made. What are your thoughts about everyone moving to Queensland and how that affects the comps?
Well, look, it's from one point of view, it's great for people in South-East Queensland. They get to see a little bit more footy. I've heard of a few people that I know, they've actually asked the question, mate, about they're living in South-East Queensland. They're members of interstate teams and whether they are allowed to get any sort of tickets as being interstate members
Surely.
to some of these games. So maybe that's what some of the clubs in the NRL need to jump onto.
Absolutely.
But yeah, but it's obviously a decision made, to allow the competition to continue running, and it's a situation that I was in with the Melbourne Storm last year. It's a challenge, mate. It's a challenge, and I don't think people sort of understand how difficult it can be. But the team that manages this move the best will be the team that is sitting up the top of the table and possibly pushing for a premiership at the end of this year.
Mate, if I'm a club, I am taking this as an opportunity to build standards, expectations, and bring the boys together. There's nothing better than having full control over the team, as you guys saw with the Storm. But shoot us a text on 0457 736 736. This is the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. For best sheds are up to 40% cheaper. Back shortly on SEN. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith on SEN. Now, Smithy, we've got plenty of text. We've got plenty of text.
Thousands.
Can you read some out for us? Read some out for the people and the punters listening.
We got thousands. I was just trying to find one here. There was last year when we were in the bubble up in Sunshine Coast, and we've got a listener here texting and said, Smithy, while back when you're up on the sunny coast, you gave one of my boys one of your boots. Can I get another one so the other kid stops fighting with his brother?
Mate, could you imagine the blow-up?
Oh, Ryan from Sunny Coast, mate. Listen, I could probably find someone somewhere down dirty old boot from somewhere, but get in contact with the studio, mate, with SEN, and we'll finish it. I'll sort it out for you.
Surely.
G'day, Goat and Smithy. Chookman here.
Goat and Smithy.
Blues whitewash tonight. On the fast track, turbo 3 tries. What do you think there, mate?
3 tries. I mean, it's almost a statistical impossibility. Surely not. Surely not 3 tries again. Because if he does, I don't know if I'll ever be able to show my face again as a Queenslander in Sydney. I may have to go into a self-imposed lockdown.
Oh, mate, listen. Get on the first plane back. Do your 2-week quarantine and get back up here if this happens.
Mate,
fair dinkum. But
I need to be around my people.
You know what? He's in that form though. He's just in that form where, like, if he's got his head on and he wants to play just one of his outstanding games that he's played a lot this year, like it could happen. It could happen.
Yes. I mean, you're totally right. And you would have seen it at the Storm with players like Slater, with GI. When they get in this vein of form, they're doing things that you just don't even expect. Even though you know they're great, you just can't believe you're seeing it. I'm assuming that's what it was like when you saw that kind of form.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there, mate. Like, totally agree with you. But they get in that zone. I think I mentioned that with, like, when the Hayne plane come out in 09, like it was almost unstoppable. It didn't matter what game plan you took in against them. They just had this air of confidence about their own ability where they went out and just things happen. When you play with confidence, it's funny how it works out like they can be. When you have that self-belief in your own ability and you've got the confidence of the players around you, how you step onto the footy field and things happen. Like the bounce of the ball goes your way, some calls from the referees, they go your way. And things just, a lot of positives happen around you, and that's what's happening for Tommy Turbo this year, certainly. But anyway, I hope he plays well, but I'm hoping that he doesn't score 3 and we're able to win this one for the Queensland fans. Now,
one more Queensland and Origin question. There's been a bit of drama. I'm not sure if we're making a mountain out of a molehill, but recently Fatty Vaughton came out and said that Slater was offered the job, and they came and the great fat man. He was offered a job, and then they turned around and said, you've got to come in for an interview. And then Slater was like, look, I don't want to be a part of the circus. What are your thoughts on the whole Slater, Paul Green thing? And we have to understand, Paul Green is the coach. Yes. He is the guy we've got to get behind. Let's be real here. Let's not, it's been 2 games, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on the whole scenario.
Yeah, well, I guess people are saying there's a lot of pressure on Paul Green, and given the results so far, I don't think it's so much 2-0 after 2. I think it's more about like what has Paul given this Queensland side to build with for these first 2 games, given the scoreboard, mate. I think that's the big issue here. 76 points to 6.
Yes.
That's the elephant in the room. It's not so much about the result. It's about the way that the Queensland team has performed and how far in front the New South Wales side has been. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Is it just the coaching? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like we see this in all sports, not just NRL. But it seems as though as soon as a team underperforms or not, performs well below their best, the fingers get pointed at the coach straight away, saying, "Oh, he's a bum. Like you can't coach. He's the wrong man.
Yeah.
Get someone else in."
Crazy.
So it's are we jumping the gun? I think we are. Like it's been 2 matches. This is Paul's first series, so you got to give him an opportunity to actually instill something that he's trying. He might be trying to build something long term here for the Queensland side. But I guess the chat around Billy, I heard that too. I heard that he was sounded out at the very end of last year, maybe the very beginning of this year, about his thoughts around being the Queensland coach. And I think at the time I think he was of the belief that he was the only one. And then Paul Green sort of come into the picture, and I think at that stage Billy said, "Well, look, I don't want to make it a competition. I don't want to go against anyone else." And and Paul Green was given the job. So, and now the discussions have started. Well, is Billy ready to be the coach? Could he be a good Origin coach? Look, I believe he could be. He's played a lot of Origins for Queensland. He knows what Origin is about. Has he got the experience as a coach? Well, he's been working as an assistant for the Melbourne Storm now for a handful of years, and I've seen firsthand. Like, look at the evidence. He's worked with Ryan Pappenhausen, and he's worked with Jerome Hughes when he played a few games at fullback. He's worked with Cameron Munster, and he's worked with Nico Hines. Yeah, one of the guys who's had a breakout season this year. He's up the top of all the attacking stats with line break assists and try assists and all this sort of stuff. And Ryan Pappenhausen was getting spoken about at the start of the year, Kempy, if you remember.
It's incredible.
Whether he would take the number 1 jersey of James Tedesco. So, there's the proof there that he can work with people. He can work with players. He understands the game. He's got a great knowledge of rugby league, more than most, I believe. And he understands what playing for Queensland is about. So, do I think he could do a good job? Oh, certainly. Certainly I think he could. Is it the right time for him in particular and his family? That's a question that Billy and his family need to answer. But as far as the ability to coach Origin and be able to handle that arena, there's no doubt that he could do that.
I totally agree. And I think that if you let's assume he did want the role, and like we moved on from Green. If that is the case, Green may be building something great, but let's just imagine a world that he is a coach. I think it's more just about getting the right people around him, and then you're good to go, because he has all the culture, he has all the experience, he has evidence, as you said. There is hard evidence that he knows how to coach rugby league players.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, mate. There's no doubt. You made a good point there. Like, if coaching, right? It's being the head coach. You don't do all the work and get teams prepared and players prepared for the game of the weekend. Like, look at Craig Bellamy for an example, right? Regarded as the best modern day coach. Okay, he's got 4 assistant coaches. He's got someone looking after the players. He's got 2 or 3 people looking after the players with their physical preparation in the gym and recovery and things like that. There's multiple other coaches working around the clock to have the players prepared. So, his main role then is just to make sure that the team and the players are in the right frame of mind and the right position to go and play their very best on the weekend. A lot like Mal Meninga. Yeah. You look at his record as a coach when he took over the Raiders. It's not great by anyone's standard. But then look at his record in Origin. He put good people around him that understood the game and could develop a game plan for the team. And Mal was there as support for the players to have them in a position and have their mental space in the right place to go out and play their very best.
Absolutely. I mean, when I was under Wayne, he wasn't an X's and O's guy. He was, how do I get 17 blokes in the right headspace to be the best they can be?
Yep. And mate, that's exactly why he was successful last year, I guess, coming off the back of a very long season, a very different season for everyone. With all the bubbles and all this sort of stuff. And he got them in the right frame of mind to be up for 3 consecutive Origin matches at the end of a long season. And they played well, and that's what he's good at, Wayne. Like, I've been coached by Wayne in my very first Origin game. A few of the All-Star matches that I was involved in, he was there. He wasn't about the fancy game plans and extravagant plays and all that, as you know better than me. He was just all about having yourself well prepared to go out and play at your very best.
Absolutely. And don't forget to join the conversation at 0457 736 736. This is a captain's run with Cameron Smith for Best Sheds. Best Sheds are up to 40% cheaper. When we come back, we catch up with the great Tristan from TopSport for the latest odds on Origin 3 on SEN.
There's 8858.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. And Tristan, I've just got a question for you, mate. Have you ever considered voice acting? Because that voice is something special. How have you been, mate?
Very good, Kemby. I reckon you and I could formulate a very dynamic duo with the voice acting if we put our heads together. So you never know.
Mate, get your people to speak to my people and we'll work something out. Give us, what odds have we got for the huge game tonight? What odds have we got, mate?
Well, I've been listening to the show, and whilst I can't assist with providing extra shoes for any of the listeners, what I can do is provide Shooky with a price for the 3 turbo tries. He's $13 to score a hat trick tonight, so it'll be a very sad state of affairs down there your way, Kempy, if he gets the result. And I'm going out to the game tonight. I won't be too happy either if that occurs. So hopefully, for Queensland fans, our hammer can line up and defend well against him with the little structural change, and we can keep him at bay tonight.
Mate, to tell you what, $13 for a hat trick, that's got to be, is that some extremely short odds compared to, your usual hat trick odds?
I was going to say, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not good for Queensland.
Yeah,
No,
it's not good for Queensland. And what's worse for Queensland is there's 2 blokes that are shorter than him in the market. Brian and Josh Adokar both $11 to score a hat trick.
God.
What are the punters thinking? What are the punters thinking? Get behind the boys.
Yeah, exactly. But for all the Queensland fans out there, we're getting close to $4 about the Maroons tonight. It's $1.28 New South Wales, $3.90 Queensland. The line's 11.5. So there's been a bit of support for Queensland in this game. We're still at big price, but I get the feeling it's backs up against the wall mentality. The boys might be able to lift tonight and hopefully get a result at the big odds for any Queensland fans out there.
Yeah, get amongst that, I reckon. Surely.
Now, how did the horse go last week, mate?
I'm watching Doom, and Doom is going around again shortly, and I think it's still running. So no, it was very
hey, boys,
about as good as our.
Tristo, quick one on the tip last week. So my mate's he's a Captain's Run listener. He tunes in every week to myself and Kempy and follows your tips very closely. Anyway, he texts me later that night and says, "Mate, I stuffed up the bet." I said, "Fair dinkum."
Oh.
I said, "Fair dinkum," because it was race 9, number 6, wasn't it?
Yeah,
At
correct.
Eagle Farm. He's put it on race
Eagle
6, number 9, right? This thing has got up, paid $25.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
well
a win
done.
to the
How
punter.
about that is one of the greatest stories of the year. It can go the other way. Luckily, though, when you're on my tips, normally they go the other way and you get a result backing something else. So that's a great result for the listener. And we'll have to leg him into something a bit later on. Maybe next week we'll come up with another racing tip. But I think what we need to do, boys, today, we need to pick one of those try scorers again. We need to get this multi over the line for the charity. So who's your try scoring to score a try tip tonight?
Kempy, what are you thinking, mate?
I'm going Holmes. We're going to see vintage Holmes tonight. One of the best wingers we've seen in quite a while when it comes to Origin. I'm going vintage Holmes for first try scorer.
Righto.
This worries me, Campy, because that was my tip as well. And I think there's a lot of weight on Valentine there with both of us jumping on. So, but first try scorer for Holmes is $15.
Wow.
That's paying more than a hat trick for.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy. Anyway, well, I'm going to throw mine in, Tristo. I'm going to say anytime try scorer, Cam Munster. He's in for a big one, I reckon.
Munster, yeah, well, we know he has to have a big game. If the Maroons are to get a result, Cam Munster to score a try is $4.40.
Oh.
And I'm going to throw Queensland in plus 11.5. So that is going to get us to $82.47.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Let's go.
We'll put 100 on that, and we might get equal to what your mate got back after backing the wrong horse there last week. So throw that up to the character.
I tell you what, if you've learned anything from today, it is punt the opposite of what we say. So, mate, thanks, Tristan. Cannot wait to catch you next week, buddy, and enjoy tonight.
Thanks, guys. Speak to you next week.
See you, mate.
Hey, fellas, we are back. We have some texts coming in, Smithy. They're flying in today. The people have really got on board the captain's run. Hi, Beacon Smithy. Do you think COVID protocols in place the NRL needs to provide conjugal vigits for the boys so they don't explode and get themselves into trouble? Look, I understand the boys may need to release a bit of tension, but their job does become before the tension releasing.
Yeah, well, yes, I'm just going to agree with you there, mate. We'll leave it at that,
Boys, please give me some respite from this season and say something good about the Bulldogs. We need some love out in Bankstown. Cheers, Goat and Smitty.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of positives coming out of this season for the Bulldogs so far, sitting 16th on the ladder, but I don't know. Maybe this change up of moving up to Queensland and being in the bubble and having their little hub, it may improve the performances of the Bulldogs. Trent Barrett gets a little bit more time with the players. I actually spoke about this the other day, Kempy. It's very important though that the coaches don't go crazy because they've got access to their players 24/7 now. They still need to let them, sort of live their normal lives. I know it's not normal because they're living away from home and all their friends and family, but they still need to, when it's downtime, it's downtime. Don't try and grab them every, spare second to, have an extra meeting here or watch some vision here. But there is an opportunity to build a bit more morale around the place and have a little bit of fun because you're spending a bit more time together.
Absolutely. Two positives for Bulldogs, Luke Thompson and Jake Averillo. Now, on to the previews. We have Titans versus the Eels. Who are you picking, Smithy?
Kempy, I'm going to go for an upset here. I'm going to go the Titans at home.
Wow, yeah. Titans at home. Yeah. Big one, eh?
Yeah, no, I think they'll sneak home, I reckon.
Look, I think that it's going to be a really close game, but I think Mitchell Moses comes back confident, buoyed from the Origin debut, and the Eels get the win. Manly v Dragons.
Look, if Tommy backs up, I think Manly will be too good.
I'm going for a Dragons upset. I think they're buoyed by the recent drama. They're playing for each other. They actually don't have that many people out. They've still got Hunt. They've still got Norman. Sloan looked good at the back there. Yep. I think that it's going to bring them together and get the win. Okay. Now, Raiders, Sharks.
Mate, this is a tough one. I backed the Raiders last week on an upset against Manly.
Yes, you did.
But I think the Sharkies. I think the Sharkies will be too good on this time around.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually really liking with Sean Johnson with 5 repeat sets last week. I'm really liking what I'm seeing. We'll speed it up, Smithy. Cowboys, Roosters.
Roosters.
I am going Roosters. Storm, Knights.
Storm to continue the dominance.
Absolutely. Storm. Warriors, Panthers.
Panthers.
I am gonna go Panthers, Broncos, and the Tigers.
Mate, who are you going to go here?
Oh, obviously the Broncos 13 plus, mate.
No, I'm going to go Broncos as well off their great victory last time
mate, out. The last time you backed us, we got the win. You may be the secret ingredient we need. Yep. You should have signed with us last year. I can't believe you didn't. South first Bulldogs.
I'm jumping on the Bunnies at $1.05.
Bunnies at $1.05. Okay, I'm going the Bunnies as well. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Make sure to download the app, and we will see you next week from 12 to 1 on SEN.
Catch you next week.